Nick stood at the payphone outside the general store, the receiver cold against his ear, his breath visible in the crisp evening air. He hadn't used a payphone in years, but his cell phone was long gone, sold to scrape together enough cash for gas. The weight of the past few months pressed down on him. Pam's betrayal, the DNA test that shattered his world, and the aching absence of Maddie, the son he'd raised. But who wasn't his by blood? He dialed Kevin's number, hoping for a distraction, a friend to pull him out of the spiral. "Dude, I'm in the middle of a game." Kevin groaned through the line, his voice muffled by the clatter of dice and laughter in the background. "No hanging out, no talking. I'm DM. Man Dungeon Master's word is final." Nick forced a laugh, but it felt hollow. "Come on, Kev. I just need to chill. I'll bring a 2-liter, whatever you want." "You're depressing to be around right now," Kevin said, blunt as ever. "Look, call Stacy Glenn. She's cool, she's nice, and she'll listen to your sad sack story. I'm texting you her number." "Stacy who?" Nick asked. But Kevin was already gone, the line dead. Moments later, his pocket buzzed with a text. "Stacy Glenn, a stranger." Nick hesitated, his thumb hovering over the digits. What was he supposed to say? "Hey, my life's a wreck. Wanna chat?" But the alternative was another night in his van, alone with his thoughts. He punched in the number. Stacy answered on the third ring, her voice warm but cautious. "Hello? Hey Stacy? This is Nick, Kevin's friend. He said I should call you." Nick winced at how pathetic he sounded. "Kevin's friend, huh? That's unfortunate," she teased, but there was no malice in it. "What's up?" Nick leaned against the payphone, staring at the cracked pavement. "I don't know you, and you've got no reason to care, but I just don't want to be alone tonight." There was a pause, and Nick braced for rejection. Then Stacy's voice came through, softer now. "Okay, why don't you come over? I listen better in person." "Really?" Nick straightened, surprised. "Yeah, you're at a payphone, right? By the general store?" He nodded, though she couldn't see him. "Yeah. Turn left at the store. Go about 3 miles. House is on the left, 497. See you soon." The line clicked off, and Nick stood there, stunned. He didn't know what he'd expected, but it wasn't this unopened door from a stranger. He climbed into his beat-up minivan, the engine sputtering to life, and drove toward the unknown. Stacy's house was a modest 2-story with peeling paint and a cluttered porch. She opened the door before Nick could knock, her short hair damp from a shower, her smile easy but curious. "You must be Nick." "Yeah, hi." He shoved his hands in his pockets, suddenly self-conscious. She was smaller than he'd imagined, with sharp eyes that seemed to see right through him. "Come in. Ignore the mess my family's disgusting." She led him to the kitchen, where a frying pan sizzled with bacon. The smell hit him like a wave, grounding him in the moment. "You hungry?" "Starving," he admitted. They sat at the counter, eating bacon straight from the pan, the grease popping and sparking. Stacy laughed when a splatter hit her arm, brushing it off like it was nothing. "Breakfast for dinner's the best, right?" Nick grinned, the first real smile he'd felt in weeks. Never had it before. "What? Your mom never made pancakes at night?" She froze, catching herself. "Sorry, I didn't mean." "It's fine," Nick said quickly. "I live with my dad. Don't know my mom. Found a picture of her once, on a beach. That's all I've got." Stacy nodded, not pushing. "That's rough. My family's a circus, but at least they're here." They talked for hours, the conversation flowing effortlessly. Stacy was a freshman in college, studying theater, working lights and sound for the drama department. She had a quick wit and a knack for cutting through Nick's defenses. When he mentioned his ex, Pam, and the mess of his marriage, Stacy didn't flinch. "Sounds like a lot," she said, leaning back in her chair. "You still love her?" Nick stared at the countertop, tracing a scratch with his thumb. "It's not about love, it's complicated." "Say it," she pressed. "Either you love her or you don't." He sighed, the truth spilling out. "I don't. I'm just stuck on what happened. She cheated, said Maddie might not be mine. Then the DNA test confirmed it. I raised him for a year, and now I'm nothing." Stacy reached across the table, her hand brushing his. "You're not nothing. You're the guy who loved him enough to stay." Nick's throat tightened, and he looked away, afraid to let her see how much that meant. Stacy didn't linger on the moment. Instead, she stood, grabbing her keys. "Come on, let's get out of here. I'm paying for gas, you drive." The night unfolded like a dream. They drove to a gas station, where Stacy insisted on filling the van's tank despite Nick's protests. "I like having indentured servants," she teased, tossing him a watermelon Slurpee. They challenged each other to a drinking contest, laughing until their noses froze and their stomachs ached. Later, they parked by a lake, the water glinting under the moonlight. Stacy dared him to jump in, and before he could overthink it, they were splashing through the shallows, clothes soaked and hearts racing. "You're insane!" Nick shouted, shivering as Stacy splashed him again. "You're having fun, admit it," she called back, her laughter echoing across the water. He was. For the first time in months, he felt alive, unburdened by the weight of his past. Stacy was different, bold, unapologetic, and fiercely kind. She didn't pity him, she challenged him, pulling him out of the darkness with every smile. Back on shore, they sat on the hood of the van, wrapped in Nick's jacket. Stacy's wet hair clung to her face, and she looked at him with a seriousness that caught him off guard. "You need to get clean, Nick. Not like a shower your life. Get a job, figure out how to see Maddie. Have some fun. You're 19, not 90. Nick bristled at first, but her words sank in. "You're kind of a hard ass, you know that?" "Excuse me for caring," she shot back, but her eyes were soft. "Look, I'm not saying it's easy, but you could start small. Ask the theater department to pay you for tech work. Explain you've got a kid to support." He nodded slowly. "Maybe I will." "And Pam," she continued, "you need to understand where she's coming from. If Maddie's not yours, she might see you as, I don't know, an ex who's complicating things. But you could still be in his life maybe as an uncle figure. Show her you're not a threat." Nick's jaw tightened. "I'm his dad, not some uncle." "I know," Stacy said gently. "But if you want to see him, you might need to compromise. Maybe even get a lawyer." He let that sink in. The idea of fighting for Maddie in a new way. Stacy's bluntness was a lifeline, grounding him in possibilities he hadn't considered. "You're pretty wise for a college freshman," he said finally. She smirked. "I watch a lot of Jeopardy!" As the night deepened, they found themselves at the theater where Stacy worked. The stage was dark, the seats empty, but Stacy flipped on the lights, bathing the space in a warm glow. "Come on, perform something," she urged, climbing onto the stage. "I don't perform," Nick protested, but her enthusiasm was infectious. He joined her, attempting a dramatic leap of death that ended in a clumsy roll. Stacy doubled over laughing, and soon they were play-fighting, chasing each other across the stage like kids. "This is like sleeping with the enemy," Stacy gasped between giggles, referencing a movie they'd both seen. "You know, the theater scene?" Nick grinned, tackling her gently to the floor. "You're ridiculous." "And you're fun," she countered, her face inches from his. For a moment, the air between them shifted, charged with something unspoken. Nick's heart pounded, but Stacy pulled back, her smile playful. "No kissing tonight, Romeo. Cool girls don't make the first move." He laughed, the tension breaking. Noted. They left the theater in a rush, giggling as they imagined getting caught. In the van, Stacy slid a CD into the player, a soft, haunting song Nick had never heard. "Found it in a box," she said. "Maybe it was your mom's." Nick's chest tightened as he pictured his mother on a beach, sunlight in her hair. "Maybe," he whispered. By the time they reached Stacy's house, it was nearly dawn. They crept upstairs to her room, careful not to wake her stepdad. Stacy's space was a chaotic mix of theater props, old Barbies, and a creepy doll she swore was psychic photography. Nick teased her mercilessly, but beneath the banter, he felt something shift. Stacy wasn't just a stranger anymore-ish, was someone he could trust, someone who saw him. They lay on her bed, exhausted but wired, talking about everything and nothing. Nick admitted how scared he was of losing Maddie forever. Stacy listened, her hand resting lightly on his arm. "You'll figure it out," she said. "You're stronger than you think." When her stepdad's alarm blared at 6:30, reality crashed in. Stacy groaned, pulling herself upright. "I've got school. You staying?" Nick shook his head. "Gotta get home. Face the music." "But, can I see you again?" She smiled, a real smile that lit up her face. "Yeah, Nick, I'd like that." Outside, the morning was crisp and bright. Stacy snapped a photo of them together. No silly faces, just real. As Nick drove away, the CD still playing in his van, he felt lighter than he had in months. Stacy was right, his life was a mess, but it wasn't over. For the first time, he believed he could fight for Maddie, for himself, and maybe even for something new with her. He didn't say, "I love you," as he left, but the words lingered in his mind, a promise of tomorrow.